Okay, so welcome to week 4 of Psychology of Play. We are going to be covering Balancing Play, Module 4, and thanks for listening in. So today's presentation, as you guys have been tuning in all month, either live or via the recordings, I've been using web tools throughout the month and grabbing those from our activity resource list that I shared with you guys as far as including it in our course content this month. So this week's presentation is actually built within the free public version of the web tool called Prezi. Some of you, this might be new to some of you, maybe some of you have some experience with this, but Prezi is a great way to use the provided templates within Prezi as well as their images. So you have the option of using their templates, which they have a whole bunch to choose from, or you can do a blank canvas and create your own. I chose a template just for the sake of building within that and using some of the slides just to give you guys some examples. The great thing about Prezi is that you can embed videos. It's limited right now to just YouTube, but you can embed videos and music, and then you can upload like favorites and so forth if you wanted to like include some of your own images and things of that nature. So anyways, it's a really great tool, kind of another one, just a bookmark for future use. If you don't use it this week for your final project, definitely something to keep moving forward, just depending what types of presentations you have coming up in, other classes. So hopefully you found it helpful this month for me to build our GTT sessions within web tools. That way it just kind of gives you some other tools to take with you leaving the class and maybe to practice in our class. So a friendly reminder, before we get started, just like in previous weeks, if you happen to be watching this as an archive on our YouTube channel, please find the links I refer to throughout the session below in that video description area, so that way you can use those throughout the session. Also, again, we won't have time to cover all of your material, so definitely please just continue to review your playbook. Okay, so here is today's playlist. We are going to review these topics to highlight some of the areas in your reading. We're going to cover video game aggression, when playing is not fun. We will highlight friendly competition and how to balance play, as well as do a little bit of a sneak peek at our circadian rhythms, and then finally discuss peak performance. So to start off with, we're going to delve into the dark side of play. So a question that I always like to pose to folks in GTT is, after everything we've learned and participated in these past 3 weeks, did you ever think that there could be a dark side to play? So hopefully the answer to that is yes, okay, and that's what I want to talk about a little bit more in depth, is when, what does too much play look like? So although incorporating play can be beneficial, too much play may have negative effects that could be all in fact detrimental. So during this week's module, some of our reading talks about research on video games and behaviors. Research has said that playing games can stir hostile urges and aggressive behavior. Playing games can perhaps form a gaming habit, resulting in behaviors that are more aggressive for about a year or two. And they've also found that a dose of violent gaming could make people act a little more rudely for up to a few minutes after playing the games. So, what research is showing currently is that the behaviors were always short term. No studies have shown a long term connection between playing violent video games and aggressive behavior. In 2011, the APA, or as some of you may be familiar with, the American Psychological Association, published a study that found people who played competitive video games, regardless of whether or not the game was violent, did show some increase in aggression. Then there was a study done in 2012 that found cooperative playing in Halo 2, for instance, made test subjects actually more cooperative outside of the video game playing. And so, while some mass shooters over the past couple of decades have had a history with violent video games, none of these extreme acts of violence occur just because of one factor or one risk factor. So there's usually multiple concerns to take into consideration. So it's well documented that many mass shooters have had a history of mental health problems. They were perhaps socially isolated, many times, maybe even perhaps the victims of bullying. So, moreover, millions of people play violent video games every day and never go on shooting sprees or commit other acts of violence. So now I want to take a few minutes to look at a video that gets pretty heated with opinions of whether violent video game playing directly correlates to violence in society. Versus me playing it within my presentation, what I would have to do is remove my headphones and turn the volume up for you to be able to hear it on your end. So I'm going to ask that you head over to your materials section or in the description if you're reviewing the archive on YouTube and click on video games and violence. It's a few minutes long, so just let me know when you're back and we'll move forward. Okay, welcome back. So a pretty heated discussion, a lot of opinions getting thrown around there. So now I want to talk a little bit more about video gaming on the addiction side. So instead of me discussing what outside research has found, I wanted to hear from you all first. So what I wanted to do, what my idea was to take a moment as a team and come up with a profile of what someone addicted to video games might look like. For example, a person that might have an issue with video games, leaning more towards that addictive side. They might have limited social interaction, for instance, continue to play, the video games despite negative consequences, and so on. So, what I wanted to do was to brainstorm and throw out some other ideas using Awe app, which it's basically a web whiteboard. And what it is we can build a profile. It's a great tool if you are meeting as a group and so forth remotely, if you're having to work on team projects, and you can basically use Awe app. It's aweapp.com, and it's a digital whiteboard, and you can brainstorm together and so forth. So it might come in handy in future classes, just another tool to bookmark. But what I want to do is, if you grab the link from the chat box, we're doing this in live time, so for those of you that are listening into the recording, you would just have to go ahead and see what we come up with, of course. But anyone that's here live, if you go ahead and grab the web link from the chat box and pull it up on your screen, you should be able to go ahead and use the pencil and the colors and so forth, and we can go ahead and we can type out, we can draw, on this digital whiteboard. So what I wanted to do was throw out some ideas on this digital whiteboard, and what I wanted to do was for us to sort of build and brainstorm about what someone addicted to video games would look like. So think about, personal hygiene again, sort of that social interaction. What do you think some of the characteristics, what are some red flags about this individual? So let's take a moment and go ahead and do that, and then we'll see what we come up with. All right, it looks like we have a lot of brainstorming ideas about what that profile might look like, in regards to someone who either might have be erring on the side of addiction or having, issues in regards to, aggressive behaviors that we were discussing in relation to, video gaming. Again, going back to highlighting, in regards to multiple concerns going on, within the profile and not just being necessarily video games being that one only item, of course. So what I want to do next is I want to check out 7 symptoms or signs that may indicate video gaming is becoming a problem or impacting one's daily lifestyle. So I'm gonna keep our whiteboard here. I want to keep it pulled up so that way when I go through the 7, we can see kind of what areas maybe we were running parallel with. So according to an article that was written by Tracy Miller in the Daily News, here are I'm going to go ahead and list out 7 signs that someone may have an internet and or video game addiction. So the first one that they had on the list in the article was secrecy or lying about the actual use. Number 2 was spending more than 24 to 30 hours a week online, not for school or work based. Number 3 was mood shifts. Think about increased irritability if access is taken away. Number 4 was a significant decrease in other activities and interests. Number 5 on the list was neglecting friends, family, and other responsibilities. Definitely, running parallel with that social isolation and whatnot. Number 6 was sleep problems, and number 7 was a deterioration of personal hygiene. So, so definitely it makes sense. We're talking about the balance of play. So, as we talk about all things and we get more into the balance with fun and so forth, just trying to maintain sort of that idea of too much, not too much of one thing, if you will. All right, let's head back over to our slides. So we had a lot on our list. I feel like we came up with a really good list there. So video game addiction can cause change in everyday life. As I mentioned the last slide and and throughout our talk so far, the addiction can result in a person neglecting friends, family, other responsibilities like work or school. So what I wanted to do was take a quick look at a video clip where a former NFL player shares how his video gaming addiction affected him. Again, for the purpose of you being able to hear it, I won't play it within Prezi. What I wanted to do was at least embed the videos within the Prezi today. That way, you could see, for the sake of your own future presentations, you can embed video and play them within. So, for the sake of audio, head over to your materials section and go ahead and grab the video game addiction link. And again, it's a few minutes long, so just let me know when you're back. All right, welcome back. So, we've talked about how there has been research that believes negative behaviors are influenced by video games, but there's also research that says different. So, just like music and media, violent video games have had this tendency to become a convenient scapegoat at times. It's an easy thing to blame for perhaps a more complex underlying problem. So I always like to mention that, well, video gaming addiction is not listed in the fifth edition of the DSM-5, which is the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders. Internet gaming disorder is identified there in section 3 as a condition that simply warrants more clinical research and experience before it might be considered for inclusion into the main book as a formal disorder. So, you may have noticed that the seven signs of gaming addiction that I mentioned by Tracy Miller coincide with attributes of other addictions. It's a great lead into our material surrounding balance, like I was mentioning before, that we'll be hopping into next. Okay, so what I want you guys to do is to think of a time or an event in your life when play was no longer fun. Okay. So I want you to think about what what that play that was no longer fun looked like. What did it look like? What about that situation made it not play? If you have a situation that you don't mind sharing, feel free to raise your hand or let me know in the chat box, and I will work to unmute you. That way you can hop on the mic. If not, that's okay as well. So I just want you to reflect for a minute and and think about a situation and what it made that go from maybe a fun, playful experience to not being fun anymore. I've had students share examples in the past of, for instance, maybe being at parties before and maybe they themselves or a friend overindulged, on alcohol, for instance, at the party, and then the situation, didn't become fun anymore at all. It turned into a dangerous type of situation. Also, I've had a student before share about just sort of horsing around, and playing, either tackle football and the competition getting a little bit too much, between friends, and the same thing with, maybe like wrestling and so forth. So, again, like horsing around, and that situation went a little bit too far to where next thing you knew, someone got hurt or something of that nature. So, having a situation that you're thinking, is fun going into or even, during part of that situation, but then at some point it just sort of takes a different path, if you will. So, video game violence and addiction is not the only dark side of play. Rough and tumble play is a form of play that can be very dangerous. This type of play can go too far, and like I was mentioning, can turn into a fight and someone can get hurt. When you think of rough and tumble play, sometimes we might link that and think of boys because of that physical component of it, but girls also have their own version of rough and tumble play. Sometimes a girl's form of play has that strong psychological component that might involve role playing, for instance, or even some teasing or gossiping or click formation. That movie Mean Girls comes to mind. Sometimes through these types of play, kids have been able to discover where their own boundaries lie and learn what constitutes as going too far. So with rough and tumble play, it can continue into adulthood, but maybe necessary for healthy relationships. We don't physically attack others anymore, hopefully, but maybe we engage in some lighthearted joking around and maybe some mild teasing from time to time. So before I talk a little bit about our next slide on the screen being competition, I want to take a quick watch of this video clip. And so again, for the sake of audio, head on over to your material section and click on the Running Back Sons link. It's about a minute long. Just let me know when you're back. All right, welcome back. So funny clip, right? Since we talked about video games, now we are going to talk a little bit more about competition. I felt it was only right to show a clip that combines a little bit of both. So competition is not a bad thing. It becomes negative when the sole focus or the goal is to simply win. In these situations, only a few people are able to accomplish that goal. The majority of people will feel beaten, they might feel defeated. So, people who don't win may feel they have failed and experience negative feelings about themselves. They may experience lower levels of satisfaction in participation, perhaps feel undeserving, maybe even experience some anxiety. When positive responses are only given after winning and negative reactions are only given after losing, people may learn to fear failure. Their desire and motivation may be dampened in a way that may limit their creativity and desire to experience new things, for instance. Enthusiasm for learning and enjoyment might even be discouraged. Competition should focus on learning, obtaining goals, social contact, having fun, and ideally just being happy. let's talk about how to have that balance between both work as well as play. So, I want to take a moment and throw out a question and see what we go ahead and come up with. I want to use a web app called SurveyMonkey, and it's a web-based survey tool to collect our responses in real time. So go ahead and use the link either on the slide or in the Balancing Play survey link that I highlighted over in your materials section. Those of you listening to the archive, you won't be able to participate, of course, in live time, but definitely listen in to see, what we get as results. So go ahead and grab the Balancing Play survey link in your materials section to take this poll. And let me know when you're done taking the poll. It's a quick question, just one question. Go ahead and select an answer and submit it. And then let me know when you're done. Thanks, LaCrystal. And then I'm going to pull it up and I want to analyze the results and see what we go ahead and come up with. Okay, so hopefully everybody can see. On my side, I have a GoToTraining control panel on the right-hand side. So I'm just going to go ahead and move my screen over just in case you're unable to see the whole screen. So, all right, so workaholic category. I would say I've definitely, if I were to have also taken the survey with you, I would have, at times, probably most often than not, fall more into the workaholic category as well. Definitely by teaching the course material, the research, reading up, studying, and so forth, I definitely try to bring more balance, right? Of course, because I'm trying to go ahead and teach you about balance, right? So, of course, I should be incorporating balance within my own personal and professional life as well. So I really try to focus more in the both area. All right, let me bring my screen back over. So again, for everybody, SurveyMonkey is a great tool. Definitely feel free to bookmark anything we've used this month if you think it might come in handy in future classes. Again, I always like for you all to leave class with, different tools and stuff like that to use. So it's a great way to set up a survey and collect responses in real time. All right, so exactly why we were talking about balance for being in that workaholic category. So for the past 3 weeks, we've learned about play and how it's valuable, and today we have talked more about the dark side of play and perhaps playing too much. So I want you to think about how you take control and incorporate play into your professional and personal life. Ideally, maybe even falling into that workaholic category, maybe by taking this class, hopefully some of the concepts that have stuck out to you throughout the month, being able to incorporate more on the play side and really sort of structuring that, into your schedule, taking time out for things that you do enjoy, learning to take some play breaks when we're working on different projects or trying to get tasks accomplished, or, not really finding our flow when we're working on something. So hopefully some of these concepts are sticking out that way. Again, it's bringing that balance. So that way you're in the work category, but also in the play category. So I want you to think about a situation where you take control and incorporate play into your professional and personal life. Again, if there's a situation you want to share and hop on the mic, definitely just let me know and I can work to unmute you so you can tell us how you balance play professionally and or personally. Um, I can give a personal example, personal slash professional example. Balancing play, psychology of play. My team on campus, we go ahead and we try to incorporate things, whether it's around the holidays and different contests, pumpkin carving, and judging and winning prizes or costume contests, or different things of that nature. Definitely trying to sometimes go ahead and get off campus and have meetings in, an off campus, off site type of environment, whether maybe a coffee shop, a coffee house, things of that nature. So definitely trying to just bring sort of an element of playfulness or fun, to sort of that professional side. And in personal example, that comes to mind is um, definitely when it comes to working. I have nine nieces and nephews, if I haven't shared that already this month. So, having nine nieces and nephews from newborn to age 19, definitely a lot of developmental levels there, right? They're all in a different age bracket and they're learning new things about themselves and their environments. With the little kids, developing a leaderboard and getting chores done around the house, and whoever has a lot of gold, the most gold stars at the end of the week, getting to pick like a Friday night meal out or a movie or something of that nature. So just trying to incorporate some fun in there where we can. Sometimes we're able to, still go ahead and accomplish tasks, and we're bringing some of that balance that we're talking about into play. So I want to share an example through a video that shows how play can be incorporated on the professional side. I shared something on my side, but I definitely wanted to share a quick fun video with you. So if you head on over to the materials section, again, those of you watching the archive, make sure you look for that link in the description portion. Click on Wrapping Flight Attendant. It's a couple minutes, and just let me know when you're back. All right, welcome back. So, just like children, adults too need recess or play, things to lighten things up at work sometimes. So, If we learned at an early age that play is necessary to be productive, why did we stop playing? Some of us may spend the majority of our time at work and maybe try to cram some form of play in after work or on the weekends. So we try to play hard during the weekends, but sometimes we usually end up resting or letting off steam from our busy playlist work week. So we don't seem to always have a balance between the two. So incorporating play into our workday definitely can be key to maintaining our mental and physical health. So head over to the materials section, watch a quick snippet on the positive impact of video games on health, and then just let me know when you're back. So use the positive impact of video games on health link in your materials section. All right, welcome back. So, in conclusion for our discussion on in this area on the dark side of play, as we can see from the videos we've used during session as well as the material we've covered, and of course reviewing in your playbook, play is important, and even more so is that balance of that appropriate play we include in our daily lives. So we really want to consider the overall impact on our health that play can have and work to find a healthy balance for ourselves individually. So after all, finding our healthy balance can play a part in the overall increase in both the satisfaction of both our personal and professional lifestyles. Definitely worth considering. Okay, so lifelong play. So we've had a fulfilling month of activities and lessons in a class where we have encouraged you to think differently about play and how you incorporate it in your life. And at the same time, that's great for class, but now what? What do you do with this stuff? How do you keep it going? How do you formulate some kind of plan and put it into practice? Which these are all great questions. We've touched on Stuart Brown's teachings behind focusing on our journey and not necessarily the outcome, trying to steer away from tunnel vision, so to speak. Ideally, if you didn't identify with flow at the beginning of our course, um, hopefully you have either identified with it later on in the course or perhaps noticed whether or not you have come close to experiencing flow. Hopefully, with Dr. Martin's and Dr. Csikszentmihalyi's ideas surrounding a more positive outlook on psychology, we have moved to thoughts of writing out on our strengths, our virtues, love, growth, and education versus simply pathology or weakness or medicine when it comes to psychology. And then now, by taking a look at the dark side of play, including when activities perhaps don't feel like play anymore to us, this has hopefully depicted the necessity of the balance that I've been speaking of. So, finally, having some examples of fun at work, we took a look at Google, we took a look at Pixar. Hopefully, that has given some positive outlook on being able to not just save fun for after work playtime, trying to sort of bridge the two, right? So let's talk about peak work times. So I know that I'm a very detailed person, and when I used to schedule my time, I would work to cram so much into the day that I could, and then I realized that all I did was stress myself out more and more, and then sometimes it would just be like, overload, and nothing would get accomplished, even the simplest of tasks. So I'm not sure if any of you can relate to that. Maybe you've had those periods before in your life, especially with those of you that may be identified as being more on the workaholic side than the playaholic. Um, there would just be agenda items that I never got to. Like I said, being, dreading that detailed plan. So I had to learn over time that I need to scale back my list of must do's, for instance, and carve out that flexible me fun time. And by taking more time to have fun, have some play breaks, learning to meld the two together, being able to have fun in the workplace and bring a sense of playfulness definitely, makes a difference. It's kind of like with anything, they say practice makes perfect, so to speak. So, by doing it more and more, it starts to just become part of the daily routine. So, when I wasn't doing that though, I definitely would go through periods of feeling burnt out. And when I was working with folks in a counseling setting who have experienced deep trauma, it became more and more evident that self-care is necessity, not just for my professional sustainability, but also for my own mental, emotional, and physical health. So by taking more care of myself, I was in turn actually able to be more productive as well as more focused on my clients' care at the time. So I have also always recognized that I am more productive in the afternoons, evenings, and not necessarily a really early morning person. So to plan tasks early in the day when I'm not as productive started to not make sense. But when I would or could plan them more in the afternoons, the early evenings, I could definitely work to get things done on sort of my must do list, my priority list, if you will. So I want to ask you guys a question and see if you relate more with being perhaps either a night owl or a morning person, if you will. An early bird comes to mind, or another term is a night hawk. So think about, you can throw it out in the chat box if you want as well. Think about whether you're an early morning bird or a night owl. Okay, I'm seeing night owl in the chat box. Yeah, definitely. And it definitely goes back to maybe sometimes what you're doing right now, for work, lifestyle, other obligations, definitely when you're noticing your creative peaks and so forth. So, circadian rhythms is That those are our 24-hour sleep cycles, and they actually have a huge impact on our biological functions. And not just when we actually go to sleep or get up, they have an impact on virtually every element of our physiology. So I want to take a quick look and watch a video on circadian rhythms. So if you head on over to your materials section again, go ahead and click on the link Circadian Rhythms, and then let me know when you're back and we'll move forward. All right, welcome back. So, studies have shown that there is a difference between younger adults and older adults when it comes to our peak performance times throughout the day. Um, as we get older, we can slowly make the shift from being an afternoon or evening peak performer to being sort of wide eyed and bushy tailed morning person peak performer. So, the age of the shift has been estimated at around age 50, and they estimate that it impacts about 80% of the general population. So, ideally speaking, it's best to take on challenging cognitive type tasks during our individual peak performance times. So, and definitely, of course, where we can go ahead and schedule those tasks. So, basically, paying close attention, if you will, to when we have the most energy throughout the day, are more readily focused, alert, able to process through and take on more challenging tasks. That definitely can assist with knowing, when our specific peak performance times are, and we can better adjust our day to day activities to try to take advantage of this as much as we can anyway. So now that we've touched a little bit more on circadian rhythms and working to pay closer attention to our peak performance times and when we have the most energy throughout the day, another important component that I always like to toss in here is interruptions. Now, interruptions can be challenging, for instance, say if you have children, grandchildren, if you work in an environment where you do not have your own private space, or perhaps you answer calls and emails as they come in without a delay, maybe stopping what you're doing to assist a colleague or a customer. So I'm sure all of us, all or most of us have experienced some type of interruption before when we have really been focused on our task at hand, whether it's a fun task, sometimes even, not a fun task that we're trying to plow through. Those times, sometimes we might not mind the interruption, but it can also lead to things such as procrastination if we're trying to get through something. So, so definitely, I want you to think about how you can avoid interruptions during, some of your peak performance times. If you have more energy, for instance, in the early mornings or the evenings, and you have family members, sometimes having your own space and letting them know that you are going behind closed doors, for instance, and that's your time, that's your own personal space for you to go ahead and get things accomplished. Sometimes, I've had students share where, they have a studio or a study space that is set up separately, within their house. Maybe their, spouse or partner, roommate, maybe they entertain the kids in the house, for instance, if they're trying to get something, trying to get through something or working on a project. So definitely having those boundaries that we've talked about. So I want to mention over in, we won't do the activity here in class, but I wanted to at least include the link over in our materials section. It's a great tool as far as where we feel we have a balance, and it's our wheel of life activity. And it's also included within our playbook, and basically, it's a great tool where you can go through and on a scale, I believe it's 1 to 10. You can go ahead and sort of score different aspects of your life as far as fun and spirituality and relationships, financial, etc. And so it's a great little tool to use in the moment, and it's a quick sort of self-assessment, if you will, to just kind of gauge where we're at, at that present time. And definitely, with so many things going on in our lives and all of the different responsibilities and obligations, all of the different hats we wear, it's definitely a great little quick snapshot of maybe where we need to incorporate some more balance. So, if we have really been putting a lot into the work and financial side of things, then maybe the spirituality side or maybe the fun side is a little lacking, if you will, community and so forth. So then maybe we can try to redelegate where we're spending some time and try to bring more of a balance to our wheel. So I really like that. Like I said, it's a quick self assessment. It's something that I like to use throughout the month. I know my schedule changes a lot, and different times, and where I'm spending time, and so it's a great way to just use it as a quick tool. So definitely something that you can take with you leaving the class. I know our schedule moves very quickly here as well every month, and so you are moving at that pace. So so please do use it. It's a great tool as well to use in, in working with the material this week when it comes to working through your final discussion post as well as your final project. All right, so time to make fun a priority. Um, So you guys are going to be incorporating all of the ideas and concepts that you've learned this month through into your play portfolio activity that you have for your final challenge project. And so definitely, you're using scenarios and you're using what you learned in class. It's sort of an application type of assignment, and so these scenarios are incorporating fun. And sometimes we might be in environments where others don't see our fun as that. They don't see our play as fun. And so how do you work through those scenarios? For instance, maybe you are in a position currently where fun is maybe not encouraged on the job. And so it's to get you thinking about those types of scenarios. To go back to, I forgot to bring this point up, but I don't want to not bring it up. I forgot to mention that in the material section, I also included a link for an example schedule, the work, push, play, fit schedule. That's something that I also pulled from our reading that I like to highlight in regards to sort of prioritizing our tasks, like I was mentioning before, listing, incorporating like so much into my day previously, and being that sort of detail oriented type of person, and having too much on my plate. This is definitely a great way to sort of reprioritize and bring things into perspective, as well as schedule that playtime in as well. So if you haven't had a chance to take a look at that schedule in our playbook, definitely make sure you grab that link from our materials section or the description portion of the video on the YouTube channel. So, overall, our goal and the bigger lesson for the month is that definitely you all are ideally walking away from the course with ways to incorporate and apply play throughout your personal and professional lifestyles. Play is more than throwing a ball, and you have encompassed much of what play has to offer throughout your creativity this month. That's why we have options for challenge projects, our different discussion board posts, and so forth. So there are many things that can be considered play. Hopefully, you have found some of the different tools and what you've put into your activities, fun at times. It's definitely, something that I strive to bring to the class, is that just being able to experiment and have options, and roll with an assignment that you feel more connected to than perhaps the other one. you know, Really working to bring a healthy balance to how our work and personal lives intertwine. So, recall learning about Google and Pixar. This brings great benefits to how you work and present yourself within your industry. Our personal lives definitely impact our professional lives no matter what way we look at it. So why not strive to make lifestyle adjustments to include more fun throughout, so that way it can spill over into our professional side if that's an area that it's lacking in. So definitely consider all we've learned and how we play, and having that sense of playfulness impacts our brain as well. And, remember those play breaks that we talked about. So, in closing, I've really enjoyed our time together again today. I am always very grateful that you're carving out time to meet with me each week. So, definitely thank you for your time. It's been a pleasure to work with each of you this month. Those that came with me again this week, live, as well as those you listened to the recording. Um, I will go ahead, like I do at the end of each session, and hang out for a bit longer in case anyone that's here has any questions with regards to the material we covered, any of the activities, our final activities that are due this Sunday. Hopefully, everyone saw my post to please work efficiently and effectively this week. That way, you can go ahead and turn in everything on time on Sunday. Our class does close on Sunday, and I want each of you to remain eligible, of course, for as all the remaining points that we have in the course. Um, And by you getting everything turned in by Sunday, it helps you move into your class on Monday with ease. You have a new course starting. So I definitely want you to be able to close out one class, move into the next class with ease, and that gets everything into me so that way I can work on finalizing your grades for you and get those out to you as quickly as possible. Those grades would be up by next Friday at the latest, but I always strive to have those earlier to you, just as hopefully you've seen this month in trying to get stuff back to you pretty quickly. Something I want to highlight, some week 3 project feedback. Remember to do a quick spelling and grammar check. It's definitely something to continue to focus on moving forward in courses, okay? So focus on that again this week, just as you have been. Definitely just make sure that you are reviewing all the instructions before you turn in your final activities. And just a friendly reminder, if you did happen to miss the Wednesday discussion post, initial post deadline, make sure that you make an additional response post to your classmate. You guys were really, really active on the discussion board in week 3. That's fabulous. I hope to see the same thing for week 4 as well. There were lots of great response posts on there, lots of wonderful interactions with each other, suggestions, feedback, and so forth. So that was absolutely fantastic. So I'm hoping to see that same pattern continue and finish out this week just as strong. All right. Do we have any questions for those of you that are here live on the material or on our activities? I definitely want to carve out some time for that. Oh, thank you. I'm glad that you will be taking a lot from this class. That's great to hear. Okay. Awesome. So no questions at the moment in regards to the material or our week 4 activities. Of course, if anything comes up for anyone, please don't hesitate to message me through the platform. Again, you can find me, you know, all kinds of random times on iChat, not just during office hours. Send an email, give a call, whatever's most convenient for you. Let's definitely connect. Again, just the same as in last recent weeks, our previous weeks, if you get done with brainstorming or a rough draft of your project early and you want me to take a look, go ahead and shoot that over to me by Friday morning. That way I can go ahead and take a look for you and get that back to you so you can make final touches before the Sunday final deadline. So I know some of you also posted your work on the community board asking for class feedback. That's absolutely fine as well. So we're all here to support each other as much as possible. So thank you again for carving out time. I appreciate it. And I look forward to seeing what you all create this week. Thanks so much. Take care.